Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel for this week's video. So today I am going to go through the benefits and negatives, or positives and negatives, of retro gaming and modern gaming, and tell me what you think. Leave all your comments down below, and if there might be stuff that you agree with, there might be stuff that you disagree with, but yeah, put your comments down below. So, modern versus retro. Retro gaming, lots of positives for retro gaming. One, the nostalgia side of retro gaming. Obviously for me, I've got a lot of retro games ranging from the Nintendo all the way up to, I would say, retro, maybe Xbox 360 and PS2 are in that retro realm. And then I think anything past that is definitely more modern. So you're looking at your Xbox Ones, your PS3 and 4, and the Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 now. So other positives for retro gaming, particularly on the Wii, is how cheap the games are. Yes, there's a caveat that there are some games that are a lot more expensive. But the Wii, for me, obviously what I'm collecting at the moment, tends to be a lot cheaper. And which is why I have managed to build up such a large collection of Wii games. You go earlier than that, and you go to the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, the N64, and then obviously the other side of that, which is the Sega games, which tends to be a little bit more expensive. And there are some games that you still can pick up quite cheap, especially your sports games. I've got a few dotted around the sports games, and there are some games that you can pick up anything between £5 and I'd say £25–30, which is not a bad price considering today's markets. But there are games on the flip side, which is a massive negative to retro gaming, especially boxed cardboard games. Your Super Nintendo, Nintendo N64, your original Sega Mega Drive games. Even you creeping in with some PS1 games and some of the other Sega consoles, which are incredibly expensive. Someone's being needy and wants to be picked up. So, why I think what drew me into collecting is finding something that was relatively small size set that I could complete, which is why I went for the Wii U. A relatively unloved console, and you can pick up quite a few of those games for under £10. However, there is a few of those games that did, for me, I had to pick up for quite a bit of money. So they were £50 and up, starting with WarioWare, which is about £50, and then all the way up to games such as Phineas and Ferb. Honestly, I've got a lot of things in the way, so I can't actually get to these at the moment. So we have Phineas and Ferb, and there was two that were released later on the system, which I did end up picking. I have picked up, which are extremely rare. They only released 3,000 copies, and they are both French exclusives. That's why then with only 2 left to collect on the Wii U, I then moved on to the Wii. The cheapness of it is fantastic. The amount of games that you can collect. This is a massive collection. It's a massive set. It is about 12 to 1300 games for a full PAL set, which I am working my way to. I think I've got just under 490 left to collect to complete the full set. Some of the older games, UNES, SNES, N64, have much smaller collections. However, again, it comes to that price. And for those comes condition. The price varies a lot. So if you could pick up a boxed copy of something, I will show you one here. So I have one. So here, Wave Race. Not the best condition game, but that's okay. I'm not a massive fussy person on quality for the minute, particularly on some of my retro games, because you tend to find they get a lot harder to collect in a better condition. But you can then look at another game, obviously 2 different games, but Donkey Kong 64. But look at the condition, excellent condition, and that will tend to fetch a lot more. The Wii U games are a little bit different, as the conditions for those tend to vary for the disc, but the boxes generally are pretty good. So a negative for the older box games is finding them with the boxes in a good condition. Finding them with manuals. A key thing if you want to complete a full set, complete full sets, is having a full box with the inserts, with the manuals. And that's something you don't see a lot of these days. It makes it a lot harder to collect them. Other positives for retro, again, going back to that nostalgia, getting into what you played as a kid when you were younger. Some fantastic games that we used to play. One of my favourites, Double Dragon 2 on the NES. And I picked up this one. Again, it comes down, obviously you can see the condition of it, looks fantastic. However, this is a reproduction box. Would I buy a reproduction box in any of the modern games? Absolutely not. It looks good, it looks okay. The actual reproduction is really good. If I can get actual one down the line, I will replace that. Super Mario 3, one of my favourite game, or my favourite game on the NES. In great condition, but in the correct box, full manual, and always handy to have those box protectors, just to protect them. So, the next thing for me, for positives for retro games, you can just put them in the console, set yourself up, and off you go. You're playing your game. Fantastic. It's what you want, especially if you've not got a lot of time and you want to just have a quick game or something. You can put it in, play for 10 minutes, 15 minutes before you go out or whatever, and you don't have to worry about loading it all up and having to wait for the loading screens or anything like that. Then there's the retro sounds, the PS1. The Nintendo GameCube. Another classic sound when they loaded up. They were fantastic. Then let's switch over to the modern game. So, positives. They're readily available, which is great. You can get them quite easy. Not the best one I picked up there. I picked up a FIFA. Again, FIFA, you tend to see a lot of them. Let's for example, Halo. Can probably pick it up quite easily in CEX. But, and if the discs are looked after, they look great, but you can clean them. One negative for the Wii U, you can't clean the discs in a disc cleaner. So, the next thing for me, obviously, as I said, in the retro side, is the manuals. Modern gaming. You don't see it. This is what we've got. That's the manuals. The fact about a controller. Obviously, the Xbox Live Gold Pass. And that's the best you get. Most modern games do not have manuals. And it's a huge loss for a retro game collector. Obviously, being modern. And it was a big, it was something that really is missing from modern gaming, is the collective side. The only way to get manuals and extra special stuff is from special editions, which costs 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times the price. Take Nintendo, for example. All or most new Nintendo Switch 2 games don't have manuals. They have a slot for it, but don't actually have them in the boxes. And again, with some of the Xbox and the new PlayStation, you don't have manuals. Now, there is some exceptions with some special editions, things released by limited run games that do have some manuals. And I have got a few that do have the manuals that are modern gaming. One, for example, if I can find it. It might be on the next shelf down, that might be why I can't find it. Is Turtles Shredder's Revenge. So it has a little pocket guide, which is fantastic, and I've got a little key ring to go with it, which I've not opened, to keep it complete. So you don't see that very often in modern games at all. Then, next up is the price. And the prices for PS5, Xbox One, or Xbox Series 1, and now Switch 2, the prices of going through the roof. You're looking at 60, 70, 80 pound for a game, where back in the day, that was 30 to 40 pound. But when you think about it, that's probably about right in terms of where money has gone over the last 20 years. Now, one other thing, massive for modern games. You need an internet connection. Before you can even start to play your game, you have to fully download it. And if you've got a weak internet connection, it's going to take a while. And some games I've had in the past have taken half a day to download because they're so big. You don't have the time where you can just put that game in and start playing it. You've got to download all the content. You've got to download the game onto your console before you can even play it. And that's another thing with some of the Switch 2 games, is their game key cards. So the actual cartridge is just a placeholder, so to speak, and you are just downloading a game to put onto your console. So that little card is a key to download that information. So it's not the actual game on the console, which again is very frustrating. One good thing about modern gaming is about gaming online. Games like Halo and Gears of War, Call of Duty, things that you can play with other people and have fun on multiplayer games, which you couldn't do online with retro gaming. However, retro gaming, you'd have your friends at your house playing games. N64 was a brilliant one where you had all 4 slots in and you could play games like Diddy Kong Racing, Mario Kart, Mario Party. Some fantastic games to play with all your friends. But you had to have friends. So you had to have people that were interested in playing those games. Well, with modern games, that doesn't matter. By playing online, you play with people across the continent, across the countries. So it doesn't matter if your friends no longer play or you don't have any friends that play games, because you can play with people online and make friends that way, which is great. So that is definitely a bonus. Some of the collections, the sizes of the collections for modern games are huge. Take the Switch, for example. That collection's massive. There's a lot of games that were released for the console. And very much so with the Xbox and the PlayStation. So collecting for those consoles and completing sets is a lot harder. Then the consoles themselves, the box art. Now, I won't move them, but I don't know if you can see them from here. I've got a Super Nintendo, a Nintendo, I've got a Sega over there. The box arts for the consoles look fantastic for the retro games, retro consoles. For the modern ones, they're a little bit more plain. They're a little bit more boring. I'll just remove me Retro Gamer magazines off the boxes. Obviously, something that Nintendo always done really well was the box art for the games consoles. It was always fantastic. It's something that the later consoles for Xbox and PlayStation, it's just a little plain, a little boring. Nice on the back, but you want colour in your consoles. You want to display them. Obviously, one that wasn't so good for the Nintendo was the Wii, which was again a little bit plain. Put all my Retro Gaming magazines back there. So, what was the best? Retro or modern? For me, it's always going to be retro. It's the ones that I go back to all the time. And the one thing for modern consoles is they have a lot of retro games that you can download on them. So you're playing retro games on modern hardware, which tend to have upgrades and things like that. Obviously, Star Fox, that releases this week for the Nintendo Switch 2. That was the N64 version. So there is that. But I think retro games have so much more positives than modern games do. And there are some great modern games. But I tend to find myself buying a lot more retro games nowadays than I do for modern games. The Switch, I picked up a few. I tend to use. I do all my shopping in Sainsbury's, so I use all my points to buy my retro games from Argos, which really helps. So it saves me a bit of money. But for consoles like the Xbox, you've got Game Pass, which is a great way of testing out games that you might not want to buy. And there might be games that you think, that looks okay, I'll give it a go on Game Pass. You then think, oh, that game's great, I'll buy it. You can't do that with retro games. You buy it, that's it, you're stuck with it unless you sell it again, which I don't tend to do. If I've bought a game, I've always kept it, even if it's been a bad one. And the same with my DVD collection. I have about 700 DVDs, which I am now currently trying to get rid of, to try and save some space. Try and get rid of as many before I have to move home. So there are some nice positive things for modern gaming, and that is one with the Game Pass, where you can play a variety of games that I haven't had to pay any additional extra money for. And here's another negative for modern games. Now, retro games, when you bought them, that was it. That is the game. Modern gaming. I'm going to buy a £50 to £70 game, and then you have to buy, or you don't have to, but there's options to buy additional skins, additional items. You unlock things by buying them. Where are the games where you had to unlock them by playing the game? That was fun. It made you want to play the game because you wanted to unlock everything. But now you have to pay for it. Where's the fun in that? Bring back that. Bring back that nostalgia of having to unlock things on games rather than having to pay for them. You're already paying £70, £80 for a game. And by the time you finish, if you're buying skins or unlocking things or buying wrestlers on games or things like that, you end up paying £100, £200 for a game. It's crazy. And who in this day and age actually has that kind of money? Well, I certainly don't. So, all in all, I can safely say it's 100% retro games for me. I do enjoy the modern games, but I do much prefer retro gaming, which is why most of my games room is built up of retro. And I will continue to pick up Wii games as and when. So please leave a like down on the video if you've enjoyed the discussion today. Please leave your comments and let me know what you think. If you agree with some of my thoughts or disagree, that's absolutely fine. I always like to hear other people's comments and your thoughts on gaming related things, particularly when it becomes down to retro or modern gaming. So yeah, hit that like, comment, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and As always, don't forget to create your world of gaming.